if I'm not big in my own city, I'm probably not going to win the world. I recognized it wasn't lonely at the top. It was full of very lazy people. I had put a dream in my life, the American dream, let's call it, that one day I would get out of the ghetto and out of the pain and out of the suffering, and I would help my family. I literally started doing the opposite of everything my dad did. I've never been drunk. I've never hit a girl. I've never done a drug. I had a very tough background and I grew up in a very tough environment. But if you really look at whatever's happened bad in your life and you really back away from it, if you just get out of it for a minute, the comeback story is what people cheer the most. I got a process I run everything through for success. We set goals, we set dreams, we worked hard, we built disciplines, and that's where I find my heart, that's where I find my passion, and that's where I'm going to now with the next season of my life.
Welcome everyone to Jill Collins Connections. We're back once again with someone who is incredibly amazing. Tommy Jackson and I met on an app, an audio app of all places called Clubhouse. It's kind of like a live podcast. And if you haven't tried it out, you should check it out for sure. Tommy is an amazing individual. We met and we started chatting, getting to know each other through his Clubhouse rooms, and the things he does there. He is a seriously accomplished individual. He has experience in the corporate world. He has actually the CEO of Jackson Wealth Management, and he's a financial advisor and is one of the top in the industry in the country. What's really fascinating about him, where he's transitioned, is he actually in 2010 founded First Note Entertainment, where he actually helps recording artists, and he helps them produce live entertainment, helps them publish their songs, and he really develops artists to really be their best selves. But the most fascinating part about Tommy and what he does on Clubhouse, which I absolutely love about him, is he really loves to coach and he loves to serve others. He actually gets in there and speaks to people. He wants people to live their best lives and to reach their full potential. And that is why we're here today. So we're going to be talking about Tommy's background a little bit, where he got started, as well as how he helps people today. And I think it'll inspire you a little bit and give you some ideas and things you haven't heard of before. So welcome, Tommy, to our show today.
Thank you so much, Jill. It's an honor, first of all, to be in here and just be getting to really go to that next level of communication with you. We've only known each other from a social app. Now we're getting to see faces first time and all those things. Beautiful lady, beautiful spirit. And it's so weird that we found each other on an app, because it's the last thing I ever thought I would be doing. I never did Facebook. I never did any of those books at all. And I didn't do Instagram, any of those things. And I found myself in the pandemic with someone saying, you really need to do this thing called Clubhouse. And I thought at first, that's the last place I want to be. But I guess after you've been locked away for 2 years, you have to go somewhere. And I went there for my outlet, and I found this amazing journey of possibilities from all over the world, all different people like yourself. And it's just been an exploration that's allowed me to grow as an individual more than I've ever grown in my life.
I love that. And I think what really drew me to you is just seeing you in action on your Sunday morning rooms, where you do Soulful Sundays and you play spiritual, uplifting Christian music. And then during the week, when you'll go and switch to a whole nother genre, which is really your business and your profession, is working with other recording artists in the secular world. And so this contrast of really shining your light and serving and helping others, I've just heard people crying in your room and talking in your room and thanking you for reaching them in a way that they couldn't be reached any other way, in any other place. They weren't open, but yet you spoke to them and you changed their lives. And so that's just incredible what you do. So I'd love to know. I think
it's incredible what we do as a community. I think we all have stories inside of us. And I think knowing you've done a great job of getting people to take their story out of themselves and give it to the world, and then let the world give it back in a different way. I think when we start exploring the fact that we've got all these lives, we've got purpose, everybody's wanting a purpose-driven life. We all have purposes, and then we get lost on the journey. We all do. Everybody gets lost on the journey, some more than others. And sometimes it's like really lost, and sometimes it's lost. And then sometimes they just need a little nudge to show them, oh, this was the track that I was on, or this is a track I could be on. And so I like to say that we come across somebody every day that we could coach. And I also like to say we come across somebody every day that we should allow to coach us. And when we get there, we're better as a people. And I think that's what you and I have been able to do. I think I've allowed you to be a coach in my life, including even coming on this show. I'm following your lead because this is what you do. This is not my universe. It's not my stuff. So honored to be a guest, honored to come and explore the journey. And I think that once we put all this inside and then spread it back out in your series, your YouTube channels and your podcast, I think people's lives will be changed better, not because we're better, because we've been transparent enough to say that we're all broken, but we can still color.
Yes, I love that Broken Crayons tour. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And I love that you really see that your life purpose is to help people find their true potential. I'd love for you to share with me like how you first discovered this purpose and what was your background and what motivates you to be on this mission?
Now we go into the deep darkness. I said you have to be lost someplace in there to have a story to get out. And the secular world will call it purpose and power and empowerment and all this drive. And I believe in that side. And the biblical world will call it your calling and your drive. I was born in hell. You got to be born somewhere. So God gave me hell. And I had a very tough background and I grew up in a very tough environment. But if you really look at whatever's happened bad in your life and you really back away from it, if you just get out of it for a minute, the overcoming story, the comeback story is what people cheer the most. The biggest Hollywood productions is going to be Rocky, right? It's going to be Braveheart. I think we all have the ability to be Rocky. We all have the ability to be the Braveheart soldier. And I think that once I recognized that I could get out of darkness, that got me really inspired to go back in and say, hey, there's a way out. For a lot of us, we don't know there's a way out. We really don't. We're so caught up into poverty. We're so caught up into abuse. We're so caught up into addiction that we think that's the cycle that the life is like, that's it for me. That's my calling in life. That's my purpose. That's no one's purpose. It's no one's calling. I think when I got out and I recognized that, hey, all things are possible. I was once broke and wondering where food's going to come from. And I'm a multimillionaire by 30. How does that transition happen? And some people would just say, I'm that good, which is arrogance and ego. I'm saying I'm that blessed, right? So to much is given, much is required. So if I'm that blessed, I only got out to figure out that was one way. I'm not saying the way. It was one way to get out. So it would be silly for me if I cared about people, and I do. Didn't have to know them, but I have to care about them. It'd be silly for me not to go, let me go back in and shine the light and say, there's a bunch of past, but at least this one, I've killed all the snakes and all the lions and all the alligators. We can come out here this way and this works. And so I found a very simple solution to getting out of darkness that works. And I do it over and over and over, and people have been able to follow it and they've been able to do it over and over. And so the world would then call that a coach, or they would call that a motivational speaker, or they would call that a whatever.
A mentor,
I just call
maybe?
it's me, just me.
You're a great mentor to so many. And I think you touched on the dark, growing up in hell. For those that are in hell perhaps too, or have grown up in hell and they don't know there's a way out, tell us a little bit about more specifically what that was like to be in hell. What was hell for you?
When people like start comparing their pains, right?
Mm.
Their pains are pains. Like your pain could be the fact that you lost your husband. I don't know that pain, but that pain is real. And that overcoming that obstacle is super, super real. My pain is my dad was a drug addict, alcoholic man that he was head of organized crime, incredibly gifted, incredibly powerful, but yet did everything his way. He finished the 7th grade of school, yet he worked for the King Faisal Hospital Research Center in Saudi Arabia with falsified documents that he got past 2 governments. He was like, Catch Me If You Can movie, right? He really was that guy. And so he was bigger than life, but he was also badder than life. He was the villain that won. And so it was very confusing as a kid to say, what is love? What is fatherhood? What is family? Because my family was violets. My family was running in the dark, hiding from my dad behind trees. It was having briars all in my legs while my mom was bleeding. It could be as graphic as you would want to see. And it was literally like a movie. But when it's your life, you don't know another life. You have no clue that there's anything else out there. You think that's the way all human beings are. And so even when I go in to mentor young people or even broken people, say they just need to know how to act. That's the only act they know, the only act that they've been born in. I think that life has got full of these stages. The only stage I was born in was people yelling and screaming and hitting each other. I didn't know there was a different solution in that. So my secret was I didn't know what to do. I only knew what not to do. So I literally started doing the opposite of everything my dad did. I've never been drunk. I've never hit a girl. I've never done a drug. It wasn't biblical. It was the fact that he was a good dude so his logical thinking. After 3 drinks, he really went crazy, right? And so even to this day, if I go out and have a social drink, a glass of wine or what, you're not going to get me to drink 3. That was my number that I saw him go crazy on. So I'm like, 2, I might can do it. 3, I don't know. So I just never pushed the limit. I understood that addictions, depression, anxiety, panic, I understood they were more powerful than me if I ever gave them power. I just never gave them power.
I think that is so fascinating because that is such a great distinction. We don't always have the tools, but you didn't know what to do, but you knew what not to do. So you literally
everybody knows
the
that.
opposite. And they do, but sometimes we don't know. I don't know if there's fear or there's this, we don't have necessarily the drive, or we're afraid to break away from the only thing that we know. There's this attachment to that. It's really fascinating.
We're programmable. So we've been programmed, right? We're all programmable. We're been built that way. That's why there's billions of dollars spent on marketing. That's why you can be a successful salesperson. That's why we can coach you and teach you. That's why we'll put you in an A category of personality, or B or C. We're very programmable. And so what happens at birth, you're starting to be programmed by the environment. And so if your environment is aggressive, you're being programmed to be aggressive. If your environment is poor, your programming is to be poor. That's even when we talk about a lot of the social issues that's happening in the world, and they talk about the surface of, we need to do this and this. You actually have to go in and reprogram an environment, because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know that they've been trained to believe that. So if they believe they're broke, they're going to stay broke. If they believe that they're mean, they're going to stay mean. So that's when I recognized that the power of the words that had been spoken to me, and that's where we got the Power Walk series from, the power of your words, action, your love, and your knowledge. I recognized early on that there was words spoken over me that probably weren't truths. And I needed to examine those for truths, and I could just as easily re-speak them and build my own beliefs. So when you grow up in a dark place, you have a certain amount of words that you speak and a certain amount of belief systems. It really is as easy as going back in and testing those and saying, how well are they working for you? For my dad, they didn't seem to be working very well. And so I just literally said, okay, then if I do the opposite, and I do the opposite long enough, how well is that working for me? And it starts building momentum in either direction. And so I just believe that each day has a purpose. I think each day is a footprint in the sand. And I believe if you will examine those over 5 steps, you'll know exactly where your next 5 are going. And I saw myself going to a very dark place, being a very aggressive guy, being an addict and wife beater, kid beater like my dad. And I just didn't feel that was love for me, because it sure didn't feel good. So if I did the opposite, where would that take me? And it's taken me pretty far.
Gosh, that's amazing. I think that's going to inspire so many people who don't see a way out, or that they're stuck and they think that no one has experienced what they've gone through. So thank you for elaborating on that. That's just amazing. That's really just impactful to me.
The exciting thing, and I think we'll discover today, there's always a way out.
There's always
It doesn't matter if you're 60, 70, 80. That is just not true. That's a belief system in its words. Some of the most powerful people in the world are over the age of 80. The choice is you, choices and voices. You got voices every day, and you make choices every day, and they add up to a destiny. Your destiny doesn't start like, here I am today, this is where I'll be tomorrow. And I've done all of the planning. I've studied under the best of the best. I've done all the futuristic stuff. I've laid down goals, written down goals. But the truth of the matter is, yesterday really never turned out like the way I planned. And not in my wildest dreams did I think that one day I would be on this amazing podcast with this amazing human being that does great stuff all over the world, and they would want me as their guest. I couldn't have written that down. Oh. Sometimes we get a little too heady and not enough heart. If we live by our heart each day and we really define what a day should look like for us, the power of the day will lead to the power of your future.
So sure. I love that. I love that. We have to be willing to be surprised and not try to put everything.
Wouldn't it be boring if we knew? I would be like, ugh.
If God gave me everything with my little tiny brain of what I could conceive and ask for and pray for, I'd be shortchanged. I need to be open 100%. To possibility.
I never would have dreamt this big.
Right? Isn't that amazing? And so with that being said, I think you've achieved so much success, and you've been ranked #1 financial advisor in Alabama, and have been repeatedly recognized in magazines like Barron's. What wisdom have you gained from personal finance that you can impact? How do you impact your clients in that way?
It is
going to finance.
First of all, again, I love teaching in analogies. I just do. I think that's where people really get it. If I started talking about alphas and betas and market coefficients and hedges and derivatives, people would be like, I'm out of here. But if I talk about inflation, I'm like, a loaf of bread costs more today than it did 2 days ago. That's inflation, right? And we call it Tommy terms. And so one of the biggest Tommy terms that I think really helped my life is, I think most of the controversy, most of the confusion, quite frankly, most of the anxiety, depression, it comes from the leaves and branches of life. So if we look out at the beautiful forest, we're going to see pine trees and pecan trees and elm trees and rose bushes and all those things. They're going to be complex and they're going to be very different and they're going to go in many directions. And I think that's where we spend our focus, is just in all these directions that seem so overwhelming to understand. But if you take that and shrink it down and move it down and look at it, and we call it drill down to level up. If you look at it, they all have a root system. And that root system is where there is so much similarity. And so I've always taken the complex situation and said, what does the roots of that mean? So in investing, it's been easy for me. Quality, diversification, time, price matters. It's been 4 words. It's been the cornerstone of investing that's given us such unbelievable abilities to manage money, quality. Everything that I invest in, I want to be high quality. The opposite of that is speculation. Speculation would be such as cryptos and day trading, which you're great at, and all those things. That's speculation. That's determined. But investments over time is you got fundamentals in there that you can look at, that and those roots in the tree, they're going to tell you. So quality, diversification, because I'm just not that good, nor is anybody. So I use the analogy is, if you're out there at Easter as a little kid, you might have the golden egg, but if it's the only egg and you're running across the ground and it breaks, it's done. I like to have 10 or 15 eggs in there, and if 2 or 3 break, I just throw them away and I got 6 left. And those is what is going to be my future, right? So I still eat, I still stay happy. So quality, diversification, time, the timeline of your investments matter tremendously. If I need money in the next 6 months, I need it to be predictable. The only predictable asset is going to be liquid cash and liquid cash alternatives. It's the only thing that's for sure going to be stable in price. Anything else is going to fluctuate. But money I need over time, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, 8 years, then they need to be invested differently than cash. And that starts the beginning of the portfolio building. Then price matters. So it doesn't matter what age I am. I'm not going to buy a dress if it's overpriced. That would be silly. So I'm going to look at each investment and each investment alternative and say, what is the price compared to its future value? And so when you look at that, it's not the price of a stock, it's the price of cash. The price of cash was so bad 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't have much cash. Now the price of cash is paying me 4.5%. I will put a different percentage in cash because it has a different value to me. It's no longer just a stable investment, it's a returning investment, right? So I will look at stocks and say, what is the price of stocks? The all-time high, I'm going to get less of them, get less percentage, like driving a car. I speed up. When everybody else is like not wanting stock because it's down, I want all the stock. When everybody's wanting all the stock because the price is way up, I don't want any of the stock, right? Because that is not the way I invest. That's not an investor. And so I look at each investment class internationally and domestically, stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities, cryptocurrencies, and go. What percentage of my assets do I need in each one of those boxes according to quality, diversification, time, and price matters? That philosophy over a 10-year period is going to outperform a 1 year or 1 day or 2 day thinking mentality, unless you just happen to get lucky. I manage people's life savings, so luck can't have anything to do with it. So it's a very conservative approach that Barron's and Forbes magazine blessedly has said I'm one of the top in the country over the last 10 out of the last 10 years, and I'm thankful for that. I don't say that. I'm saying, like, doesn't that just make sense? Like, you guys are trying too hard. You're in the trees. Get out of the leaves and branches, get into roots. And the roots are going to be supply and demand. It's going to be cost of goods and services. It's going to be price. It's going to be very basic fundamentals that says, I know everybody's buying that new thing that developed AI, but it's trading at a multiple that's not even possible. And when competition come in and it goes down 40%, you guys, and so I'm usually buying when people are selling and selling when people are buying.
I think that's so good and important. I manage my own portfolio as well in my real estate that I own. And I tell you, it's fascinating to see. Is this don't panic when prices are down. That's when you go and look for the fire sales. It's,
100%.
The portfolio may be hemorrhaging today, but hey, I've got a little extra money sitting around that I haven't invested. Let's see what I can buy today.
A friend of mine in real estate right in your area just said, which he's going to get mad at me, I'll tell you a secret. And he's, Tommy, you don't understand the opportunity we're getting down in Sarasota, Florida right now.
Mm.
Why? A once in 100-year hurricane hit it. Once in 100 years. For those people that lost home, that's a once in 100-year tragedy. For the banks that took over all that property that can't own the real estate, they're selling it 25 cents on the dollar. That's one of the biggest opportunities you could have. Price matters. Location matters. You think that real estate's going to go away sitting on that beautiful Gulf?
Heck
I
no.
don't think so. It's going to be rebuilt, but over time. And over time, you'll have 100 multiple on your money, not 10%.
There's a hot tip for you. That's a really good idea. I love that. It's the unfortunate side, and then we can look at
There
it
you
as the glass half full versus half empty. It's really looking at what's possible. And I love
That's
that
it.
you do that on a regular basis with everything really in your life. So another area of your life that you're focused on is that you've achieved so much success in the music industry. You've had over 175 consecutive sold out shows and multiple Billboard hits. So what do you attribute to your accomplishments in that area? And how did all that happen from going from wealth management to this? And you're still in wealth management, but you
Right.
actually delved into music and the industry, entertainment industry.
The reason was my brother is and will remain my biggest hero, my older brother. And he got his first recording contract when he hitchhiked to Nashville when he was 17. He's 6 years older than me. And he's been on some of the biggest stages in the world with some of the biggest bands in the world. His guitar player when he was young was Tommy Shaw that went on with Styx. Jeff Carlisi, a 38 Special, Mickey Thomas, a Starship, the Commodores was opening up for him, the Neville Brothers. So I was able to see music at such a high level, and he kept just making bad business decisions. And so in 2010, I said, dude, stop it. I'm just going to buy you out and open up a music company. And everything else, you just get in it with passion. You get in with a purpose. My purpose was to keep him from making bad business decisions. And I fell in love. I've always done music, but sang, was in groups, was supposed to be signed by a major label. I had a brother in front of me that I saw that life, and I said, Wall Street looks a lot better than getting out there on the road doing that stuff. But that being the case, I fell in love with the production side of music. I fell in love with artist development. I fell in love with the tours. I fell in love with doing shows. It's a challenging business, the most challenging business I've ever done. But it was just really out of love for my brother and making sure that he had a secure company that supported him and would give him income for life and all those things and let him be what he was supposed to be. And then I fell in love with the artist. There's nothing that moves me more on a daily basis than music. I wake up to music. My spiritual side, I get up and I don't like to read very much. So I listen to the Bible out every morning before I get out of bed. And then I listen to 3 praise and worship songs. So I start my day with music every single day. Now that I own and much more involved in the record label, developing artists like we have with Ellie Duke and things like that, that I listened to music 27,000 plus minutes last year on Spotify. And I listened to twice that off of Spotify. They said I listened to 2,445 different artists last year on their channel. I listen to about 1,000 songs a month for people to send to me. Nowadays, we do a lot in film and TV. We put a lot of money. It's called sync, S-Y-N-K, synchronization of your music. We do a lot of sync music. We have a sync rep firm called First Note Play. And I am listening to music every single day. I've got briefs that are coming in all day long, and I'm trying to match one of my songs to hopefully get in a movie. And that's super exciting when I turn on a TV and see some of our stuff out there. And we've had some very big ones and we've had some small ones. And I think, Jill, it's just a place for me to relax.
Music is a place for you to relax, and we've talked about music so much in the past, and I think that's that knowing what really sings to your soul. When someone would say, what are you passionate about? It's something that really brings you peace and it helps you relax, whatever that may be for you. It's music.
Yeah.
And then you've been able to find a way to actually make that part of your diversification, shall we say?
I really wish I didn't turn everything into business, but I usually do.
Yeah, well, but it's
just the way
that's what people aspire to do. It's like, I love gardening. How do you turn that into a business? It would be ideal if we could all do that and really wake up every day. I actually just said this to myself earlier as I was preparing here. I was like, gosh, I don't feel like I've worked today. And I did an interview earlier and I'm doing this one now. I'm like, that's a good thing. It's because you love what you do. You're on the right track.
I tell my team, and you can call them up anytime you want at Jackson Wealth Management, Birmingham, Alabama, Merrill Lynch. I tell my team, literally, if you don't want it to be Friday, if you want it to be Friday and you don't want it to be Monday, give me your resume. I'm highly connected. I'll get you another job. I want people to be passionate about their day. I can't imagine working. That would suck.
Mm.
That would really suck. If I worked a day in my life, that would really suck. Now, I typically turn in what people call work. I usually will do what people call work about 14 hours a day, every day,
Jeez.
6 days a week,
You do.
7 usually.
And
But I
it
don't
doesn't
think I'm
feel like
working,
work.
so it's not working.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work.
No.
And it's because I think also too, you have this passion to coach, and I guess that comes from your background in leading your high school team to 3 state championships. And so what lessons from coaching have helped you shape who you are in helping others and mentoring other people, even particularly youths?
I think everything still goes back to a pain pleasure principle of the Tony Robbins, right? You're motivated by one of those things. At the end of the day, coaching was a mistake. Like, it was just 100% a mistake. I had found, and this is super important for the listeners to hear, I had put a dream in my life, the American dream, let's call it, that one day I would get out of the ghetto and out of the pain and out of the suffering, and I would help my family. That was my dream. And I would be the guy. And I call myself, still do today, Batman. Like, you couldn't get close to me. Just let me go out and show you my side. Let me fix your world and let me go back into my cave. That way nobody could ever hurt me. I would protect myself. So I call myself Batman. Still do it to this day. Not, you see it now that she's going, I see that in you. They call me the great deflector on Clubhouse. And so I loved fixing people to get to their star power. It's like, you can get out, you can do it. And now go. I got to go help somebody else. Now you can do it. And I ran around just doing that. And in 1995, 96, I was sitting in a church and recognized that being a multimillionaire and being incredibly broke and incredibly beaten, incredibly abused, that it was the exact same place. I felt exactly the same emptiness. And so people talk about midlife crisis. I had midlife crisis at 30 years old. And I'm like, this is all there is? Like, my job now is to get more cars, more houses, more money for more people to call me every single day wanting something from me. This is all there is. I have reached the rainbow. This is bad. This is bad. And so I had my midlife crisis right there going, is this all, really, God, this is all there is. All it is me just collecting off of people, taking off of things. And I think that's where we get really bent out of shape. And I think that's where capitalism even gets a bad name to a certain degree. And you just feel like more. To this very second, this very day, if I were to look at my phone and I were to open it up and I were to look at emails, 99% of those emails will be asking me to help them with something. If I brought up my text today, 99% of those texts are going to be asking me to help them with something. There's nobody going to be there going, hey, dude, how are you today? You're awesome. It's always followed up. And by the way, I have this investment. By the way, I'm a little short this month. I recognize it wasn't lonely at the top. It was full of very lazy people. That's funny. I don't care what anybody says. It's people just wanting things from you. Get out and do your own stuff, man. Work, go, do it, drive. Don't ask for anything. Go get it. But that was my personality. That was my persona. And all of a sudden I had all these people every day, to this very second. Most of my day is spending either giving to people just out of they beat me down, or tell them I can't, and then they don't want to talk to me anymore. And it was super gross. It was like, oh, this is all there is. And so I decided I was going to do a Big Brother program because I chose to not have kids to eliminate my dad's gene pool. It was purposeful. I'm not having any kids. And it was selfish. I knew I would never be like my dad, but they say alcoholism and all that's hereditary.
Sure.
I couldn't think about the first 30 years being hell and I was finally out. Now I'm going to have a kid and at 16, they were going to come in drunk. I could not handle that. That would be not my kid go out and abusing, my kid go out and no, I was such a selfish control freak. I said, no kids.
Yeah.
Now God has a way of playing that in a practical joke. So a high school teacher, a junior high school teacher came to me and I was going to do a Big Brother program, go adopt a kid for a day, give him a bunch of stuff and push him off like everybody else. Seemed like a good idea. It would fulfill my godly duty. And he said, I want you to coach Little League football. And I said, I've never coached football in my life. I've not been on a football field in 16 years. Why would I possibly want to do that? I don't have any kids and you're trying to give yours away. I don't want to do that. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for that.
Yeah. And so I went out on a football field and this little kid, 11 years old, In Alabama, football's Jesus and God. Jesus is Satan and football is God. It's just the way it is. It's like that in Florida as well, and so many of the SEC schools. But football is big here, and you stay on the same team 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and just go all the way through. And this little kid had been playing for the same team for 2 years. And I said, he said, "You're gonna be our coach?" And I said, "I'm not sure." I said, "I'm just looking." He said, "I hope so. You seem cool, but don't expect anything. We're a bunch of losers." And I couldn't imagine that we've been programmed as losers by a scoreboard of life and a bunch of men that didn't know how to coach. And it blew me away. And I said, "You know what, kid, I'm gonna be your coach. I don't know how many football games we're going to win, but you're never gonna call yourself a loser again. That is now my goal." What I didn't recognize in there, God was switching my life to being me to a servant, the person I am today. Everything then was me being the hero. Now I had to really prove it. And now I had to be in the mud with them. I couldn't be on the sidelines giving things. I actually had to be there. And so the short version of a very long story, we went into a very disciplined process that I do with everything. I got a process I run everything through for success. I did it with the kids, and they beat their opponents 357-12 that year. One team scored on us. And it was like unprecedented, but it was Little League. I was like, no big deal. Fire a bunch of dads, retry out the team, put them in the right places. This seems pretty obvious to me. You guys are just daddy ball. This is super easy. Y'all don't even know about football. Y'all the guys that couldn't play. Or either you're the one guy that could play and you want your son to get the ball every time because you play in the NFL. This is not going to be hard to do. And so I went 36-0 and won 3 championships. And then they did something that was unprecedented. They called me to high school. And no youth coach had ever gone to high school. And I said, "Hey, I'm a financial advisor. I'm not a football coach. I don't have time." And when I looked at it, Jill, in that year, I had now gotten off of work at 4:30 versus 7:30. And my business had more than doubled in 3 years. By giving, I was receiving like crazy. I thought I needed to work, and I didn't need to work. I needed to give. And so long story short, they moved me to high school. We went 15-0 and won a state championship, 13-2 and won a state championship. And I had coached 5 years, and now I was this famous football coach in Alabama. And I learned so much from those kids. And I built a mentorship program, which they're still in today. A lot of them, now they're 40 years old. Those kids changed my life, and over 100 kids came through the program. We set goals, we set dreams, we worked hard, we built disciplines. The high point of that is twofold. 2 of those kids from my gym played against each other in the Super Bowl. And one of my kids ended up being, which she's right now about to be at the US Open. I got to coach there last year with her, US Open, Alexa Garashi. And I took her in when she was 12, and she's now 32. And she's ranked as one of the top 10 best players in women's professional tennis and doubles. And I got to coach at the US Open with her, and we got to do a lot of great things. So that gave me a history from 95 until today of just loving on the young people of America. And that's where I find my heart. That's where I find my passion. And that's where I'm going to now with the next season of my life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I love the distinction, because you said you were a Batman, where you were a hero, which I've done that. Let me just fix it. Let me dive in, which I do that a lot. It's like swooping in, you go help some people, and then you get out, because you don't really want to hang out in there. You don't want to get in the mud. And then you said, God showed me this way that I ended up serving and becoming servant. So it's from hero to servant.
I never thought about that. And yes.
And then,
That's
and then
good.
here, yeah. And then here you are as servant, and you thought you had to just keep working harder, but by being a servant, the secret to living is giving, Tony says. But that's what you ended up doing, is you cut out 3 hours out of your workday, and your business doubled by serving in those 3 hours. Maybe.
And then I cut out my work day because the football field started at 3 o'clock. The stock market and investment market closed at 3 o'clock Central Time. I would change clothes out of my designer suit, going down the middle of the road, hoping I didn't wreck. I would change into my football shorts, put on my whistle, put on my hat, run out on the field as fast as I could. And 3 years later, my business had doubled again. I was working half the time, and my business had doubled. And then that's when I started getting national acclaim. And then that's when the momentum of my business took off. I truly believe if I had not coached football, I would have not been a successful financial advisor.
That is so profound. Wow.
Yeah.
So what can we do?
By giving, I found my greatness.
Yeah. And so think about something that you can do if you're watching, and what you're watching, you're thinking about this, is we keep thinking we have to work harder. We have to add on more things. Maybe the secret, just maybe, is serving and finding a place to serve others. And I think where you got hooked, and it reminds me, it was the kid who said, "We're not good," or what did he say again when we went up to you? Are you going to be our coach?
He said, "Don't expect much. We're a bunch of losers."
A bunch of losers. I got chills when you said that, because I'm like, I'm thinking you're not a loser. And then and you're just, it just would, like, you were this, we were cut from the same cloth. It's like, you just want to go in and say, okay, how can we get them to not, to change that mindset? Because they're
Right.
not, we know that. And so that was the hook. Have you seen the show Ted Lasso?
No.
Oh, you have to see it. It's like your Ted Lasso is you. It's a show on Apple TV Plus. It's one of the most feel-good series ever. It's so amazing. It's about football or soccer in the
Oh,
UK,
wow.
and it's a fantastic, positive show. And that's
That's right.
exactly how he was. So anyway, so check that out. But it reminds me of you. But
Well, it looked like I won, man. They
talk-
taught me how to be young. They taught me how to stay young. They taught me how to think. They gave me some of my best principles that I apply in what I teach. I just think the young generation is powerful. I really do.
with that being said, is that something when now going into music, and how I've known you more is in the area of helping aspiring artists and musicians, people that are, you fill rooms in Clubhouse with just the most amazing talent, people from the past, people from the future, the present, that are looking towards their future. Tell us a little bit about that, and how, and musicians that might be watching and they're saying, I just can't get a break. I don't know what to do with I've got these great ideas. People tell me I'm a good artist, or maybe I've written a song, it got out there, but I'm stuck.
You and I both know some incredibly talented people. No different in your business. There's some talented podcasters. There's talented coaches. In the world of sameness, how uniquely different. And what I've always tried to do is use my tagline. I'm a simple country boy from South Alabama with big dreams and a bigger God. As much as that has never been broken down, I say it all the time, but very few people say, Tommy, what does that mean to you? It says, never forget where you came from, right? Never be full of yourself. I'm just a simple country boy, right? That's my strength. That's my character. That's my work ethic. There's a lot in that simple country boy, right? With big dreams, it says that I always dream. I'm dreaming bigger today than I've ever dreamt. I never want to have woken up and my dream be over. That's the end. Like, that's crazy. So I
Mm.
break my life into seasons. There's all these seasons and they all have purpose. I think if God's given me one great gift was to let seasons go. I didn't hold on to any season longer than it should be. There was a season for me to be a victim and abused, but there was a season for me to let it go. There was a season for me to be a hero, and there was a season to let that go. There was a season for me to be a financial advisor and money and Wall Street, and there's a season to let that go. And most people can't let that one go, because that's the way we measured our success for life, is who dies with the most money. When you think about it, that is really stupid. When you really think about what we're driving so hard for, the dumbest person I know is the one that dies with billions of dollars and gives it to people that never worked. That's not a smart person.
True.
It's the person that made an impact with his dollars and her dollars all along the way. That's the one that's lived a life, not the one that collected it. And so there's a season to give back for me, and that's a season that I'm in. But I recognize these seasons as what they're supposed to be. In the music world, that he's just a simple country boy, big dreams, but a bigger God. The bigger God part says all things are possible. See, that one sentence says, I got to remember who I am. I got to work hard with integrity and value. I got to believe in myself. I got to dream bigger than where I am today, because faith is on things not seen. And I got to trust that God has a plan in my life daily. And I just need to do my work, because faith without works is, and that means I got to work my butt off. If I want what I want, I got to pay the price. Nobody gives it. That's the country boy approach. Right? That's a country boy approach. You don't get the fields plowed and the corn in unless you get dirty. And I'm willing to get dirty on Wall Street. And that's what made me successful. While other people were out there smoozing and networking, I was working, getting their clients away, because they wouldn't call them on their Christmas and they wouldn't call them on birthdays and all those things. So the value proposition of that sentence says it all. So how do we switch that to an artist? Artists' mentality is they want to compete with the biggest stars out there. That's an unrealistic expectation. It's an unrealistic expectation. If you look at the simple math, and if you were to use an old system of the top 40, it means of all these songs in the world, only 40 of them were going to be valued, and only the top 10 would make money. That's a very tough business model to say, I want to be discovered by my music and by my power. Pretty arrogant to say I'm Whitney Houston, right? but can they still be successful? We teach them, grow where you're planted, control your diet. If I'm not big in my own city, I'm probably not going to win the world. I can drop my single on all the social media sites like Spotify and Amazon and everybody else. But the truth of the matter is nobody hears that. I need to build super fans. I need to build somebody that really rallies around me. You've got a couple artists right now that you really support, and you're their super fan. You reach out to me with them, you reach out to other people with them, you're cheerleading them. If they can get a network of people that are their super fans, now what does that mean? A super fan, they open up a Patreon account that they can play their music to, they can do their TikTok videos to, they can do their Instagram videos to, that they don't put on those social media sites, but they still use those social media sites. If they will nurture a group of people that they call their family, then there's accounts out there, management accounts out there where those people can be monthly members to their content. If they're really good, then they circle a 500-mile radius around them, and they go from city to city to city to city, the same way that Johnny Cash did with Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis, the same way that the Rat Pack did, the same way Detroit did with the Motown Kids. They just built a 500-mile circuit so they can keep their costs down, and they go and they build super fans, doing house concerts, doing country clubs, doing corporate events, doing school events. If they're really good, they can circle that 5 times in a year. Right? They just circle. They need to control 10 cities. Those cities need to love them, know them, be them, everything about them. A super fan pays you roughly $150 a month. That means if I have 5,000 super fans over 3 years, I should be making $750,000 of income. What musicians want to do is write, record, and drop singles in a free social media site called Spotify. Spotify's numbers is 125,000 new songs per day going on the unit, up from 60,000 2 years ago. Spotify's numbers, not mine, says that 99.8% of their users made less than $50,000 last year, 99.8. And over 85% of them got spun less than 1,000 times.
Oh my gosh.
So if I'm giving away content, I can't make money. The only way to make money in the music world is you have to be an artist that's either out there on the tour, butts in a seat, meaning playing concerts, building super fans, selling merch, or you're going to have to be one of those lucky ones, the 0.002% that ends up writing something that everybody wants to talk about. And if we were to go all the way back to my business class, it's a bell curve, right? It's a bell curve, and you got your median, and then you got your tails on the bell curve. That's an anomaly. The chances of doing that is 0.002. That's less than playing blackjack in Vegas, but they're putting their whole life on it. So the truth of the matter is, as an artist, you got to do all the things that a label does: tour, merch, booking, recording, marketing, all those things. You got to do that. And you can't do it without getting out on the road and just building some super people around you. If they will do that, they can make a very great living, even if they're average as musicians. But if they're just going to put their money hoping to be discovered on Spotify, 0.0002% chance. That doesn't work. That's the real numbers.
Wow. That is so enlightening. And that applies in so many ways. I actually just...
Same with podcasting, by the way, 2+ million podcasters and all those, same thing applies.
That's true. And there's something, I've been working with Evan Carmichael on my YouTube channel. I'm in his program, and he had this great course that one of his modules he taught, and it just blew my mind. I just watched it the other night, and he talks about types of content. And 2 of the 3 he mentions is, he says there's what he calls Titan content. And Titan content is exactly what you're saying. We want to be the Madonnas, or we are producing something. Like for me, it would be if I want to be like, I don't know, Tony Robbins or whoever I'm trying to, it's like I learn all this stuff from people, and then I go, I'm going to regurgitate it and teach you that. It's a watered down version of the Titan. And then 100%. The content you want to create is what he calls twin content, like a twin, your twin. And a twin is someone who is like your avatar, like where, maybe if you're trying to teach and be this is for thought leaders. If you're trying to be a thought leader, is where were you when you were getting out of wherever you are? Good. What have you accomplished? What have you learned? And find that person who's on that journey that you can teach and support. So that's the content you'd be making, is the twin content, because if you do enough of that twin content, you're going to be, it will become Titan content because
Love it.
you're building you and you're using your own emotion and your own experiences, your own stories,
Love
and
it.
not copying someone else and trying to be like someone else. Like for me, it'd be Oprah, whoever, right? I'm not going to be an Oprah. I'm Jill Collins. So what are my unique experiences, my stories? What have I been through that in a case if I were writing songs, that I could do songs that are unique to me and my experience and my style, my
100%.
flavor, and not just let me do something that sounds like what everybody's doing today. Let me make this popular because this is what everybody's saying. These are the buzzwords. This for maybe music, it's the tone. It's the, I don't know how you would even say it.
It's hard to get heard. I love teaching analogies. If there's 125,000 podcasters, there's 125,000 artists and musicians per day out there. Picture them in a parking lot. Picture yourself in a parking lot with 125,000 podcasters. And they go, okay, everybody get on your loudspeaker, and on the count of 3, show me why I should pick you. 1, 2, 3, and 100,000 people in the parking lot all go, I got Jill Collins, and I got this, and my husband died, and I got that, and it's like, I'm getting bits and pieces of it, but I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
But if you then take that just as you and your brand and what you've been able to do as Survivor, your empowerment of a comeback woman, your leadership, and you take that into 15 or 16 small cities around, and you go to the women's group and you go to literally the city council and say, I want to speak on this behalf, and here's what I do. You look great, you present yourself great, you got a good story, and you go out there and they give you 50 people, and then they give you 25 people, and then they give you 100 people. You win those people over, then the next time you come, they're going, you got to hear this girl. And then you don't have 50, you have your 75. The next time you have 150, next time you have 200. And now you have people coming to you for content, but also you're getting paid because you're doing a brick and mortar. Here I am, pay me. Here's my book. Here's my class. Here's my whatever. Nobody wants to do that step. They want to outsource that step. But what they don't understand, if you will actually be the person that connects those, that becomes your amplifier. That becomes your army. So your job is to build over the next year 100 employees without having to pay for them. Now, what if you had a group of 100 people working for you today? Would you be in the same place? So you got to go cultivate those people to where they want to be your employee. They want to be your employee, and they're free. No human resources, no get out of jail freeze, no any of that stuff. It's, man, you got to know, I'm your employee. I'll cheerlead you every time. And you got to hear Jill. She's on fire. She's got intelligence. She's got this story. She's got this comeback. Then all of a sudden, after that planting season that nobody wants to do, you don't cut up the whole crop and go, I need to be a millionaire in a day. That's the lie. And the lie will catch up with everybody eventually. It's really, dude, if you really got that podcast and you really are that rich, why do you keep showing 3 watches all the time? I get that you got some expensive watches, but dude, seriously, that's the highlight of your career. You can have these if you follow me. It's first of all, it's so stupid. No, you only need one. By the way, I can tell the time right here. That didn't cost me anything. No, that's your brand. I get it. The hype brand. That runs out.
Yeah.
And when that runs out, the value people take over. You take Tony Robbins. He's reinvented himself 3 or 4 times. I've studied him since he first came out and did every course. I can quote you the first 30 tapes, right? Verbatim. I had them on tapes and then I had them on CDs, like the tapes changed. It was the same words. I listened to them every year. I still got one probably set up for why I listen to do my goal planning, right? I know my rocking chair. I know all those things. He's brilliant. Now he's like in all kind of worlds. Now he's a financial consultant. He's got all these things. No, he's continued marketing himself as a business person, a very shrewd business person, but his narrative had to change because the story had already been told. It cracks me up that everybody's telling the same story and acting like my way is different than the other people's way. The truth of the matter is the personal power is in you. And the reason people don't do it is they never work. They dream.
Wow.
Dreaming is easy and powerful, but it's a procrastinator. It's the person that does something and gets knocked down and gets back up, that learns, that grows, that develops the way. And after they do, hopefully they got a path that they can take others with them. That's the secret of life.
That's brilliant. I don't even know where to go with it after that.
Country boy from South
I was
Alabama.
just, I think it's a country boy from, Alabama. I guess I just see is maybe one more piece of advice that you give young people before we finish. This is so beautiful. I don't want to end this. Be you.
It sounds so cliche. It sounds so cliche, but it's the thing that I see people doing the least of. Everybody wants to be accepted. I never wanted to be accepted. I want to be. I'm not willing to change who I am to make you comfortable. You and I have had those power struggles with me and you. I got to be me.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that when the filters go off, you see the blemishes, and the blemishes are beautiful. They remind you that you're not perfect. When the lights shut down and the lights are off, that's where the ghosts are. You got to learn to accept those ghosts and talk to them. And Ellie and I got this great saying that we make our ghosts dance for us. And she's got this beautiful song coming out later in the year that called Ghost Dance. And what I mean by that is my past will never go away. There will never be a day that I didn't wish I didn't have a dad. But I learned how to forgive him. And that gave me power. Also gave me a chance to finish well with him.
That's so good.
It gave him a chance to die, having no regrets. Some people would say, why give him the past? I didn't. He gave me one. Without him, I wouldn't be here. Without mom, I wouldn't be here. Now, whatever they did along the way, they still gave me the opportunity to be whatever I needed to be. It was always up to me. Be you.
Be you. And that whole thing, and just don't keep looking at the past, but you really opened up that, the real gift wasn't you, that you gave it to dad, but you gave it to yourself. Because
100%.
you're able to move on, and that's really the key. That's really key. Tell us a little bit more too about how people can find you. We talked about Clubhouse, so people can definitely find you on Clubhouse because you do your Sunday morning room, which I love, on Soulful Sunday. And then also you sometimes do weekday rooms too. And sometimes you open up just for poolside fun.
I think I'll say it two ways. Soulful Sundays, 7:30 Central Time. I'm on Clubhouse doing gospel praise and worship, which is a lot of fun and pretty deep room. It's spiritual. My other rooms are not ever going to be spiritual. I don't combine those two. I don't bring business into the Soulful Sunday room, and I don't really bring God into the other rooms because I want a platform for all people. And I think my leader in being Jesus, my leader didn't push himself on people, or he'd never been so cool. There was thousands of people lined up to talk to him. That couldn't have been a guy hitting people over the head with the Bible. Trust me when I tell you. He wasn't in the church. The church hated him and killed him. At the end of the day, that environment is different than my secular environments. My other environments are pop-ups, and they were typically music driven until the second thing that needs to happen in your life. I think that you need to always recognize that people come across your path every single day that can be a reflection or a light or an inspiration. And Jill challenged me to do my motivational stuff on Clubhouse, which I'd never done. And we're just starting to do that. So typically it's going to either be Tommy Talks Tuesdays or Thursdays, depending on my schedule. And typically it's in the morning. But firstnoteplay.com, actually firstnoteentertainment.com. That takes you to TommyJacksonOfficial.com, the public speaker. It takes you to the Broken Crayons tour, which is a musical that is all about messaging. It takes you to First Note Play, which is our sync licensing firm. It takes you to First Note Entertainment, which is the record label. So that's the best place. Jackson Wealth Management, Birmingham, Alabama, Merrill Lynch is the place of the financial world. We're never looking for clients. Clients find us, which is a whole different story for a different podcast. I got this amazing story called A Snowball, the power of the snowball. And it's really how to become a successful entrepreneur. It's really a snowball.
I love that. I love that. Tell us about your tour, the Broken Crayons tour.
Broken Crayons tour. I was doing the Power Walk series, which is the power of your words, action, your love, and your knowledge. We teach 5 steps of self-awareness leads to self-empowerment. And that was coming much from an OG gray hair guy side. And I found Ellie Duke, which is this incredible recording artist. She's got an amazing story. She had a song called Broken Crayons that was based off of the fact that her uncle was her mentor. Her uncle was the person who gave her first guitar, taught her how to play, taught her how to write. And he went to the family and he told them that he was gay. It got real serious. He felt like his life should be over, so he took it, and she wrote Broken Crayons. Well, we have a belief system that no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're going through, that we're all broken crayons, but we can still color. And I think, again, love teaching in analogies and those pictorials so you can see it. I was a broken crayon. You could have thrown me away. The world would have thrown me away. I didn't fit in the box anymore. I sure didn't fit in the box of Wall Street. Come on, I came from the wrong side of trash of Alabama. There's nothing good came out of there, right? Maybe the garbage man. And so I was in that position to where I had to make a decision. Well, take the crayons. I had another brother that was just a rock star. He was just a rock star, but he wanted to be just like my dad. And the world told him it's just like my dad. And that's where I understood the power of your words.
Mm.
They told him, you're a splitting image of Earl. You got a temper like your dad. You're wild like your dad. That's all they ever told him. They fed him your dad. With me, for whatever reasons, they said, Tommy, he's our smart one. We don't have to worry about him. Tommy, he's our good boy. I'm like 8. I'm like, everybody should be good at that point. Terry's our wild one. Tommy's our good one. Tommy's going to take care of us one day. And I looked up and there's a book called Better You by Lou Tice. And it says the words that you've been spoken as a child, you have a very high percentage of becoming when you're an adult. And I looked up and I looked at my brother's life. I looked at my life. Same parents, same environment. How did we end up so far apart? And I remembered all the words that were spoken over him versus spoken over me. I understood the power of your words at that point. And they formed belief systems. My brother ended up dying running from the police when he flipped his truck 9 times and broke his neck.
Oh my gosh.
Addicted by the drugs that my dad gave him. That could have been me. That could have easily been me. Why did I say no and he say yes? See, it's just small things, small choices, small decisions that we all need to make today as we're watching this. But I look back and I went, holy crud, man, he was programmed that way. They didn't know it. It wasn't their fault. They didn't know they were doing that. They were just doing what everybody's taught, that's everybody's taught, that's everybody's taught. Looks just like his dad. Oh, he's our chubby one. No wonder he's overweight when he's 25. And so I started studying the psychology of the mind, graduated top of my class in finance, had a minor in psychology. The psychology major started going, wow, we're programmable. This is crazy. Quit speaking it. So we teach the power of your words, leads to your beliefs, leads to your choices and your actions, which leads to your self-love. And so when I met Ellie, she had this great song. And I felt like a young generation and an old generation coming together with one common cause until you could be great. Broken crayons seemed to be the common thing with us, her song and her message. And so I looked at that analogy of me and my brother, and it was pretty funny because I can remember vividly crayons on the ground, on the floor. On one occasion, I leave the audience with this picture and think about it. He was very artsy. I was a good musician. He was a very good artist, very good. And he would take his little, beautiful his little crayon book, and his stuff would be perfect. And mine would be like, oh my God, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Look how beautiful you have. Me, only F I ever made was in art. I sucked at any of that stuff. I didn't care. So one day, true story, one day I come home, I was pissed off at him. So I broke all of his crayons. I just broke them. Later on that day, I see him coloring. He's coloring just perfect with a little half crayon. He's pissed, but he's still coloring just perfectly. I didn't know that this many years later that God would tie this all together. So what I did was I took one of them the next day and I just scribbled as many colors as I could all over the next page so he couldn't color it. But then I was in New York at one of these fancy dancy dinners, and they were looking for these people to do donations. And I look up on the wall and there's this painting that looks like somebody got pissed off like me, and they were selling for $2 million. I'm like, damn, I'm the artist after all. You never know what art really is. And so we want you to embrace the beauty of it. You look behind you at your piece of art.
That's
for me, that's beautiful, but that's coloring outside the line.
Yeah, it is.
And so we tell people, color outside the line, color broken, but never give up. Never get up, never give up. As long as there's a piece, you can still color.
That is such an incredible metaphor.
So it just came to us and I'm like, I can make money off. No, I'm totally teasing. I can help people off of this.
Yeah, I need more of that side of that you have. I just like helping. I just like being the servant and the hero. I got to work on that other side.
Well, the deal is not to interrupt that thought.
Yeah.
It takes money to make the world go round. It takes money to make the go round.
That is so true.
And so I never look at things from the standpoint of profit or nonprofit. It's all God's money. My job is to take those resources and replant them. So I'm Robin Hood. I will steal from all the people that write the checks and I'll go speak to the kids for free. We never charge a school.
That's how I feel.
We only charge the universities.
Yeah.
We only charge the major corporations. We never charge middle school and high schools.
It's beautiful because you can give freely without any kind of ulterior motive. Yeah. Thinking about what you said is the program when we get more kid, I think I always heard is she never listens. Still apply? Maybe. That's why I do things outside the box.
100%.
Listen to what the status quo. Oh, you do that? No, I'm not doing that. Everybody does it. No.
And you will go back. We actually teach, and we won't do it here, but we teach, go back into childhood, 1 to 5, 5 being amazing, 1 not so amazing. What words do you hear? Really look at them. What did they say about you? What were you saying about yourself? What did your friends say? Because it was the beginning of your programming.
That's
go
powerful.
to 10, 15, re-listen to the words.
That's powerful.
Now go to yourself now and re-listen to your words and look at your last 2 weeks of text. What were you saying? What were you allowed and said to you? What were you thinking? Why the beauty of that is that's programming. The most fun thing in the world and exciting thing in the world in today's AI space is hackers. Hack your own brain and reprogram it. We re-speak the words, we re-speak the beliefs, we re-speak the systems, and we teach you in a matter of 30 minutes how to become aware. And once you're aware, you can become empowered. We don't try to fix you. You're already fixed. We just try to let you see where you're broken.
That's so stunning. That's just amazing.
So my brokenness is my strength. I will never be unbroken. I will always be a simple country boy from South Alabama. Broken in the middle of a tough place born called hell. And I'll always be the guy that climbed to the highest mountains of Wall Street and gave it back. And I'll always be the guy that's looking for the next season of my life. And I think the next season of my life, with the help of people like yourself in it, will be the greatest season I've ever lived. I
look forward to being a part of it. And likewise, I am in the next season, and it is exciting. And so I'm glad you're on this journey with me. Yeah. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much, Tommy. I love you so much. And thank you just for taking the time. It was a little bit of a challenge. I had to say, okay, come on, Tommy, let's go. And thank you for
the deflector.
The deflector. You were being a deflector. So when you have last moral of the story, when you have deflectors in your life, keep asking. And then finally just say, hey, Tommy, Friday, 4:00.
She really did. She gave me a calendar and said, this is your day.
This is your day. Instead of here's a Calendly link, go ahead and schedule. It's Tommy, 4:00, Friday. He's okay. And that was it. Just try a different technique until you get what you need. Thank you.
And I think to end that with all of our dreams there, very few people ask me what my process is. Very few. And I'll tell the world I have a process, and very few people ask me. It took a kid 22 years old that's a multi-millionaire, that's a day trader, that's Anthony's world. He's just shrewd as he can be. And he said, man, I've studied you in all your interviews, and you talked about a process. Never heard anybody ask you what the heck the process was.
What is the process?
Process is simple.
Please.
Everywhere in life is footprints. You make them, I make them. They're all footprints. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. That's why when you're tracking what you want, right, you can just look at the footprints. I'm looking for this person. Okay, here's some footprints. I'll know where I can find them at the end of those footprints, right? And so I find 3 people that's accomplished what I want to accomplish at the level that I want to accomplish it. And I go to them before I ever take an action. And I give them an interview just like you just gave me. I said, let me interview you. You're a financial advisor, you're #1 advisor at the company. Can I just have 30 minutes with you? You'd be surprised that the most successful people want to help people more than you possibly imagine. 100%. You'd be shocked. They'll say yes. They will say yes. They'll say yes. Whoever you want, Oprah Winfrey will say yes to you. You go, no, she won't. Then she won't, but she would. She would.
You don't know if you don't ask, right?
There you go. And so at the end of the day, I find, until 3 say yes, I find 3 people. That's how I built my football team. That's how I built my mentorship program. That's how I built my speed, strength, and conditioning program. That's how I built Wall Street. That's how I'm building my speaking and tour. And that's why I'm learning from you today. I look at 3 people that's doing what I want to do at the level I want to do it, and I interview them. Now, they're all going to have their personal ways, all of them. But if I really listen and write down my notes, each one of them are going to say the exact same thing, 5 steps. Every one of them is going to say, you better do this, you better do this, you better do this, you better do this. And then they'll go, and you also, I take those 5 things that they all said they could do, and that becomes my Bible. I'm going to do that and only that for 2 years. I'm not going to think about me at all. I'm going to trust their process is better than my brain. Their experience is better than my brain. And I'm going to do exactly what they say with none of my thoughts for 2 years. After 2 years, then I'm going to put my personal approach to it. And my mentor taught me, don't look at the results until 5 years. It takes 5 years to build real momentum, real success. Most people keep starting over and changing, and they never build enough momentum to make small corrections. So I go out and interview people. I build myself a 2-year process. I put myself to the grind. Then I build myself an action page the day before. And on that thing I'm trying to do, I write down 5 things that I'm going to do tomorrow or die. There's 5 things I'm going to do tomorrow, because I know most people don't do 5 proactive things. So that's going to get me past everybody. And it's going to get me on a learning curve, and it's going to get me momentum. I'm going to do those 5 things every day for 6 weeks until I formed a habit. If I ever lose sight of where I'm going, I go back to the process and I start it all over again. Last thing that I do, which is so important, every 6 months, I pretend that I'm starting over. At Jackson Wealth Management, this many years later, every 6 months I walk in and they go, really, we're too busy, Tommy. Nope, we don't have any clients today. How are we going to win them? Look around at your desk, look at the walls. What should we change? Where do we have the drinks? What are they drinking? What's working? What's not working? Now I'm going to sit as the client on the other side and go, sell me. Make me want to be there again. Because I have a belief system, and I think it saves marriages, that when we're dating the girl, we got our best mojo on. Once we married to her, we quit doing all the things we used to do. And we wondered, how did we lose all of our magic? Because you quit opening the door for me. You quit taking me to dinner. You quit talking to me. You were so attentive when we were dating, but now we're married. I believe that we have to start over every 6 months to take all the trash out. I don't like storing up stuff. And then the last one, I never try to touch the same paper twice. Efficiency, time management is the key to real success. If I touched it twice, I failed.
Okay, so there are 5 steps. Is it 5 steps? 4 steps? 5 steps?
I don't know. I never counted them. That's just my secret to success.
Yeah.
That's the steps
I love the first one in this particular. I love all of them because they're so awesome, because that's the one that I do and that has worked for me because it's a connector. And I've talked about this in your rooms on Clubhouse, is that idea of find people who scare you a little bit, people who are where you want to be, and reach out.
100%.
I've done that several times in my life and it has transformed everything. Just one person can do that.
It makes no sense that we need to build it our own way. That makes no sense. Somebody's built it. Let me go do what they do and get momentum and then improve it.
And I love that you said too, a lot of times we get ideas and then we'll go and say, okay, these are great ideas. And then we like put them, they get lost in a notebook somewhere, we forget about it. But you actually say, I took the top 5 of what they said and I create actionable steps that I will use for 2 years. And I don't change. I don't do anything but focus on that.
That's it. I don't bring anything else in. The last one, and all these were given to me by Ed Welch, which is my mentor that's passed away, which we can do on a second interview one day, because he taught me so much about that. But he once told me, Tommy, to be great, you got to make great decisions. I said, that freaking sucks. And he laughed at me just like you did. And he said, but see, here's the secret to decision making. Most people won't make them. He says, I need you to make decisions. And here's how you're going to be able to make a decision to become great. He says, know that no decision you make is irreversible. Don't make it so big, just make it.
Just do it.
If it doesn't work, change it and go again. Most people procrastinate and they're scared of decision making. So they stay in the same place forever. Be willing to change, be willing to try, and know if it doesn't work, you can just make another decision. The power of decision making and great decisions come in the standpoint that I made a decision and I learned from it. That made it a great decision.
Yeah. Making a decision alone gets you ahead of most people, because I think that's where most of our indecision, sitting on the fence, is where most of our upset comes from. Our feelings.
So you just did exactly what I did. I pondered, and he says, you didn't hear me. You made a decision and that made it great. You just made great decisions. So he was never saying make a great decision. He was saying, once you made the decision, you become great.
Yes.
It's all process and motion.
I think we get hung up on being perfect. I think we get hung up on getting it right. That's my thing. Is it perfect?
It'll never be right.
No, you got to just jump in and see what happens sometimes. That's where the magic happens.
It's the little things you never know.
There we go. There we
Love
go.
you.
Love you too. Thank you so much, Tommy. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
I hope
And
it's been what you wanted to be into your audience. This girl, follow her. Hey, wait a second. I can tell you because I know this stuff. Social media and all this stuff is based off of something real simple. Action steps. Follow her, share her, comment. That's why it gets the algorithms. That's what makes the money, but it's why it gets her to keep doing these great things. So I don't care if you follow me, share me, all that. I don't care. Follow her, share her, comment about me. Tell me that. I don't care. Controversy, whatever. All that builds, all that starts the algorithm. She deserves to be heard. One love.
thank you, Tommy. I appreciate you. And thanks everyone for joining. And just, yeah, I'm just so touched. All right. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful afternoon, wonderful now. And remember to stay connected. Thanks a lot.